Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Process Excellence in IT Service Management. The topic for today's session is Project Management Leadership Series, Session 15, and the topic is Part 2 Leadership. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Kithari Nath Kamlanathan, Engagement Manager with Microsoft Services India. Mr. Kithari Nath Kamlanathan has more than 15 years of experience in IT industry working in various technology and management roles. His work experience includes stints in India, US and Hong Kong. He has played the roles of architect, project manager, people manager, PMO manager, and engagement manager. Mr. Kithari has a master's degree in computer applications from Vellore Institute of Technology. His specialization is on risk management and soft skills from project management perspective and equity markets and global economics from domain perspective. Kithari is currently playing the role of an engagement manager with Microsoft Services India. He is a die-hard project manager and has won great acclamations with various clients for his project management skills. He has been associated with PMI for the past 7 years and was a member of New York and New Jersey chapters while he was in the US and with Pearl City, Bengaluru and Chennai chapters in India. He has contributed as a volunteer and has enabled many project managers to engage with PMI. He has one of the rare distinction of 100% PMI certified PMO at Microsoft Services Global Delivery Hyderabad while he was the PMO manager there. He also holds to his credit architecting and establishing the PMI and Microsoft Service GD collaboration and established PMI cluster in Microsoft for the first time. It's one of the successful clusters which is still yielding great results. Many of his directs who got motivated are now contributing as board members of PMI chapter in Hyderabad. Currently, Kithari is the chair of the Champion Advisory Council of PMI India, a program instituted for advocacy of project management across industry segments and to spread the awareness. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker, Mr. Kithari. Over to you, Mr. Kithari.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mohini. Appreciate your introduction. I thought that's going to be the end of the session because that was a long introduction. Thank you very much for it, though. Just wanted to do a quick check. Am I audible? If I'm not audible, you can raise your hand. Perhaps Mohini can help you with getting in. So without wasting more time, I just want to enter into the presentation for today. So the thought about leadership is an interesting one, and I'm sure most of us think about it in various different terms, and there are several training courses, several sessions happening in various industry groups. And we finally find out that, yeah, this is something I know, but but how do I get there? I do not know how to go there. This is what is required, but I do not know how to reach over there. So I thought I will put a very no-nonsense presentation, which will help us understand what is that road which takes me to that place. I don't want to lead you there, but I'm going to show you the way how to get there. And I promise a couple of things. One, I'm not going to use any jargons. And when people heard me that I am from Microsoft, definitely they would have heard, they would have thought about some jargons going to come our way. But definitely I'm not going to use jargons. I'm not going to use high management lingos. My presentation will have very easy to understand and easy to use tips which you can follow. So with that, we want to get into the agenda part. We just spoke about some parts of the expectation. Again, expectation management is key for any project manager. We start with expectation management in this session as well. So while talking about any leadership section, it is important to understand that there will be a lot of avenues to which we can use to reach there. But which is the best avenue we can follow on, which is the best way to reach there, and how faster can we do, is some of the questions which often keep coming. More so from IT industry, where project management is more a career advancement based on experience and not based on, many a times, well, not based on the actual qualities required. So there we need to break the ice and see how we can instill these qualities with people to make sure they understand it is not just a role which you play based on your
Mr.
number of years of
Mr.
experience
Kithari,
in the industry,
I
but
would
also
like
you
to
need to have.
interrupt you. Are you using a Mac? Uh,
No, I'm not using a Mac. I'm using a Windows system.
okay, can you please click on hide control panel because it's still visible.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Thank you. So the best way to reach there, along with the skills that a project manager would require more specifically in an IT industry, and also we will talk about areas where even a person from non-IT industry will be able to use. So who are the target audience for this particular session? And without specific target audience, it's going to be a confusing approach as to, who is he talking to? Who is he advising this about? And is this really something I really wanted to hear about? So these are the questions which may come to you. So let's talk about whom I really want to address in this particular session. Anyone who wants to grow in their career, the person to whom this presentation is addressed. It can be anyone. And now you can ask a question. You're talking about leadership, and all of a sudden you're saying it's going to be anyone. How does that match? No, it doesn't really. But any growth that you have from one level of mindset to the other level of mindset is a growth. That movement is a growth, and that growth will lead you to leadership. And that's what we are going to follow here as well. Apart from the specific group which really focuses on career growth, I also intend to address to project managers, seasoned program managers who have years of experience in managing large projects, including extremely large infrastructure projects which are going on in India and abroad, IT project managers and program managers. And there are instances where, I've taken some tips from even movie makers, which brings us some project management flavor when it comes into this. Mid-level management group is another area of people who will be really interested. I know what it takes to be a manager. I know what it takes to get things done, but how do I get into leadership ladder? So that's another group which I really want to address here. Why should I listen? I think we spoke about it just a few minutes ago. Why should I be listening to this really? The intent is to see how the growth pattern can be channelized into a much easier path towards leadership, how the individual effort can really help a person motivate himself to grow into the leadership career. So we'll talk about a few more things during the course of the session, and we will get into the real content which comes later as big questions and reinventions before we move on into realization. So that's how I've structured this session. So let's move on. We talk about what is covered here. As I said, we are going to talk about the path, which is more specific to project management group, but definitely, yes, it will also address people from the other areas who want to really grow into their career. A lot of places where we have courses on project management, they do talk about a lot of different skill sets, a lot of soft skills. There are a lot of jargons which come in. They start bombarding us with jargons. And now I have all those things. I have gone beyond that. I have attended many of those trainings. Now, why is that? There is something I still feel missing in me that I really want before I could say, yeah, I'm ready to take it up. What is that which is missing in me? What they teach there really makes sense, but finally it looks like it did not make sense to me. I don't know why. So what do I do? That we will go through today. So moving on. While we start this presentation, I want to take you back into the journey as how we are all into this game here as project managers, as senior managers working in different organizations, IT and non-IT. Now this is a group which is probably around, say, 35 plus. And for those who are really younger than that, please apologize. I'm just making an average here as 35 plus. And this set of discussions here will also talk about more a fundamental level approach rather than a person who's having heavy experience. So for those who are having heavy experience, yes, there is something in this presentation for you as well, but I'm taking a fundamental approach here to address everybody in common rather than isolating anybody. So please apologize if some points are very light for you guys, the experienced professionals who are here in this call. So let's take a look at how we are all here today. This 35 plus group. These are all the 70s and 80s born people who are coming from that particular time frame, have seen India as a different place. India during those time was not the same. I still remember 1970s and 80s. Job market was not as great as it is right now. It is uncomparable to what we are seeing right now. The economy was not this great. We had a completely different setup at that time. In 1970s, we had the emergency, and it grew on to 1980s where there was a lot of rush for jobs. And when they talk about jobs, mostly it was a government sector job, the public sector jobs, or probably something into the insurance. And the famous insurance company at that time was only LIC. So this was the job spectrum available during that period. Now what happened at that time is most of the previous generation people whom we saw, whom we looked upon as we grew, they were all into the public sector work. And when we talk about public sector, there are a lot of things which comes along with it. It's a great place to work because that's the place where we have a lot of project management activities, large project management activities. There's a lot of authority which comes with you when you're a public sector employee, and so comes a lot of responsibility. As we have experienced the decades past, we have seen that large projects keep happening. When you're in a public sector job, you enjoy the job than thinking about a rat race. So the understanding of how a person works in the job is completely different. The requirement there is completely different. And mostly the mindset of people who went into a government job during those time frames is, yeah, I'm settled for life. And perhaps even my life, there will be some pension which will be coming. So that is the mindset with which people were into those jobs. And we all grew up seeing people like that. Well, at least 90% of us. Now post that, what happened? When we started growing towards the 80s and late 80s, things started transforming a bit. We were able to see the rupture which was happening in 88, 89, 90, and in 91 the economy really opened up. This was the time when the economy opened up across globe, and for us we were able to transact a lot of business with multinational companies, and that was the start. And before this start, most of us were in the school. We went through a schooling process where the exposure was limited only to the books that were given to us. And of course, unlike now, the books were available to us right on day one of the schooling days. In any particular academic year, we did have the books with us on the right time. And our visibility was stuck only within that book, probably a 100-page material. And that was supposed to be something that we should learn. And that is all we were expected to do. With all the other media items not available to us, except the newspapers, of course, it was very difficult for us to even think beyond. So these are people who really grew with that kind of a background. The focus was more into understanding what's given in the books. Well, that is debatable, but still, that is what we were expected to do. Reproduce answers. And finally, we came out probably missing out a bigger picture. What do I do after going out of this place? What do I do after going out of my school? Well, somebody guided me. You became an engineer, and you became a doctor, and you're well settled in life. That's how the thought process was. But unfortunately, the big picture which was required by an individual was not available. And again, I'm talking about that 90% case where it was not available. And you finally became a doctor or an engineer, and then you moved on in your career. So this knowledge gathering phase which happened during your schooling, whether it was in your early school days or into your college days, there was limited exposure which was available. Then comes this another concept called society. Now we all grew based on the experiences we have had, along with our schools, along with our societies, which formed our basic exposure areas. The community-based societies was a major concept during those days. If you see most of those 70s and 80s time frame, you could see the communities staying together. We had joint family systems. We had a wonderful time. Definitely a wonderful time. We all knew what a family means. We all knew how it all comes together. But what we missed there is what is beyond this circle that we are seeing here. We all got stuck to that ring fence that we had. Somebody put that ring fence, and I don't know if it is an artificial ring fence, but there was a ring fence, and we were all stuck into that ring fence. We all came out of college probably and started working, and when we started realizing, oh my God, the world is really, really bigger than what we think. This is not actually what I expected when I came to the job. And I'm sure most of you would be agreeing to me when I say this. And this is part of the culture. Our culture really expected us to work within the ring fencing that artificially came along with us. Whether it is us or the previous generation, that's how it was. And now we all of a sudden came into an environment where we started working and we started gathering real world experience, meaning you're left to do things by yourself. When you're left to do things by yourself, there is a lot of places where you start accomplishing things as well as getting dense on yourself. And this is what counts as experience. Experience is a great teacher. And for most of us, this experience started when we were in our early 20s. And this experience is the one which is going to guide us along through. As I said, the earlier ones we were struck with our books, and probably they were not really that great applicable when we came into the industry. I'm sure most of you would agree that we are probably not doing what we thought we should be doing or what we really read in our books during our school days. This is far different than what it is. I can tell you an example, and this is more specific example to people who know Tamil. And I'm not going to talk Tamil right now. I know it's an international audience here. But I'm going to give an example which you all can understand and appreciate. The Tamil culture has a literature called Tirukkural. It was written by Thiruvalluvar. So when most of the kids in school in Tamil Nadu, they all read this Tirukkural as a part of their subject. And what Tirukkural really teaches you is how to be a straightforward person, how to lead a clean life. And this was something which is applicable across time frames and across cultures as well. Now, what this literature really teaches people is to live a straightforward and a clean life so that you will have sanity in your own life. And when you have sanity, you don't have to worry anything, or you don't have to be afraid of anybody else. Now, when this sanity really grows to the entire community, you have a better society. When a society is good, you have a better country. And so the theory goes. Obviously, this was translated into several languages. A lot of people follow that, so on and so forth. Wonderful literature. Now, why am I talking about Tirukkural here? There is a reason. When we all came out into our experience gathering process, into the real job life that we are leading, we find that it is very difficult to really stay and live by the words of Tirukkural all the time. And that's what real life means. Because right now, in this kind of environment that we are living in, there are a lot of pushes and pulls that we are subjected to, but yet we are all expected to do the right things. And that experience is what is creating a lot of tension within people's mindset. Now, count in the pressure that's coming through this process. Count in the limited exposure people had because of lack of visibility, lack of big picture during their schooling days, and inability to think beyond their societies. So this is a cultural change which has happened to people. And on top of all this, now you've seen people who are working in government jobs and having a peaceful life, coming back home by 5:30 in the evening, so on and so forth, and you were expecting all these kind of things when you went into a job, and all of a sudden things changed in the 90s. And you have a society which is now looking at, lot of job pressure. You have excellent amount of infrastructure available to you to do certain things, but again, you need to go through all these things in a very fast pace. So all these put together brings in the pressure into one person. Now, why is Ketari talking about all these old days here, 70s, 80s, and 90s? What is the correlation between this topic of today's discussion and what he's talking? Yes, I do have a topic. Because experience or your current nature is something based on your experience and your background that you're coming with. And if you remember, I was talking about the 90% people who are coming in from a fundamental background, not about the very experienced or highly exposed people. Now, this set of people, the 90% people that I'm talking about, have come in from that kind of an experience background. For them in the 90s, it's a big shift. When I meet a lot of project managers across the industry segments, I get one question very often. Ketari, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm entering my 40s. What do I do? How do I grow into my career? This has been my experience. Then the first question I ask is, where are you coming from? What is that? What's your background? What's your experience? Yeah, I worked for so-and-so company. I've done that. I've done this. I've been in this college. I did my engineering there, and so on and so forth. And then again, when you drill down deeper and deeper, you could find that there is a ring fencing under which this person was developed on. The first thing which is very important to understand is that ring fencing was existing on us for a long time. In my very humble opinion, that understanding of the ring fencing is the first step towards your career growth and leadership. And why is that so? We will see the answer in a few minutes. When this experience comes into you, when this understanding of a ring fence was existing within us, an artificial ring fence was existing within us, when that understanding sets in, what comes to you is a level of maturity. A maturity which will help you understand that, yes, I did not know certain things earlier. Now I have the exposure to learn about those things. And that maturity is the key to get your car onto the path of leadership. Unless you get that maturity, you're probably going to be sitting on the driver's seat. You're probably going to be pedaling the gas very hard, but you're not going to see your car move. The reason is, if you don't have this maturity, you've not released your handbrake, you're not put your gears on. And without which, obviously, the car's not going to move. So it is essential for us to understand about these cultural backgrounds that we are carrying it. Call it a baggage or call it a blessing. Either ways, it is important to realize. And now there stands the person. Okay, Ketari is talking about so many things. I'm confused. And if you're confused, I have achieved my target. That was the intent. Now, here's what we're going to see going forward. You've seen how we have grown up, how we have gathered knowledge, how we have gathered experience and come into this level, and probably started thinking about the maturity of that specific concept of ring fence I was talking about. Probably you had this concept already in you, but I'm just refreshing it for you. And with this maturity, how is this going to really take me into leadership path? Let's talk about it. These were the questions we had. 40 plus or 35 plus. What am I doing in my career? I don't know where I'm heading. Looks like I'm stagnant for a long time. 16, 17 plus years in experience in whatever industry we're talking about. And if you talk about IT, it's even more faster. 16 years experience, I'm still a project manager. That's what I'm hearing from people. And sometimes it's really, it brings a smile in me, but internally I think, oh my goodness, this is not the right approach. What more can I do? I have so much skills, experience, background. Yeah, I came from there. I went to that college. I had experience with these many companies and customers, but still I'm doing project management, not moving forward. I always ask a question. When people say I'm still doing project management, I would ask, why not continue doing what you're doing? Because project managers carry a lot of responsibility with them. Many times in IT, I feel project managers really do not understand the amount of responsibility which is bestowed on them. Many times your organization may not say what is the amount of responsibility you're carrying. They may give you a document, but still there's more to it. A project manager is a trusted representative of the entire project that's running. And the entire project team and the leadership is waiting for his guidance. People do not understand that the leadership is waiting for your guidance. I heard you. I know somebody there is telling, Ketari, what are you talking about? Leadership is waiting for my guidance? They come and ask 100 questions to me during every project review. Sometimes they don't even give me any suggestions. They just walk off. You're saying they are just trying to take my guidance? What are you talking about? But trust me, for a leader, a project manager is the driver. A leader cannot drive a business without projects being successful. Whether you're talking about an IT project or a cinema which is being shot or an infrastructure project or any of project sorts. A project manager is the person who's sitting in the driver's seat, and leader has to depend on that person. This is second level of reality I want to instill on all of you. Project management is a very noble profession. If you look at it as a job, it is a job. But it is a profession. You need to realize that. Once you realize it's a profession, then there is a different set of mindset you get. And it is not just one change which happens in your mind, it's multiple set of changes which happens. Because that responsibility comes into you, you start getting understanding of a larger piece of the business that you're trying to deal with. Whether you're doing projects for your own company or whether you're doing it for a customer of your company. Either which ways, you start understanding much more deeper things when this understanding sets in. How am I going to go into that role? Yeah, a lot of my organizations tell, let's go for the training, let's put people into that training. When they come out, they'll be leadership material. They have a lot of experience, but again, they need this training to become a leader. Is training alone going to make you a leader? I wish. But unfortunately, that's not the story. Training is just one part of several things which will enable you to become a leader. And training cannot be everything that makes you. And the final intent I hear from people is, I want to grow. And this is another interesting thing which I hear from people is, I want to grow, but I don't know how to. The point here is, people think title change which they get in their organizations or when they move across organizations is called growth. I do agree. It is growth. It gives you a different title. With each title comes a different set of responsibilities. With each set of responsibilities, you have a growth pattern aligned with it. But where are we headed with just title changes here? It is important for people to understand title changes are just the reflection of something which has happened before that. It is my practice that I always follow. Before I get a title change, I have to start executing at that level. For example, when I was a senior architect, I used to take up some of the project manager's job. The reason is, unless I know what are the challenges in that role, when I really get onto those shoes, I will not be able to deliver during that time. So it is essential for one to understand what it means to play the next level role, whether it is a vertically higher role or a horizontally peer level role. It is important to get that experience. You don't have to wait for that experience to happen only after the title changes. Opportunities are available everywhere. You just need to wait for the right time to utilize an opportunity to get an experience. And experience is the best teacher. And experience brings a lot of value with people. So let's move on to understand how this growth can be fueled. And yes, I do mean we have to reinvent ourselves. We had this ring fence scenario which we spoke about. With this ring fence, there are certain things which we have to unlearn as a part of that community which came, or that society which came from the 70s and 80s. Once we start unlearning certain things, we are actually untangling ourselves to move forward. There are certain things which we have to learn as a part of this. And when we do this, we get ourselves straight into the concept of growth. Let's get into a deeper dive. The first skill an individual should have is an ability to listen. I always think about listening like this. Listening is a key for me to understand what thought process is going on in somebody else's mind, which otherwise I would not have had an opportunity. The only opportunity I would have to understand somebody else's mind and thought process is by talking to them, and mostly by listening to them. And listening is a very important skill for an individual to become a leader. There are a lot of benefits. As I told you, it is a key, and there is no other key to open somebody's mind to understand it. Doctors are trying, but I don't think they have succeeded to the extent of simple listening can do. Active listening is a very important attribute a person should have. And what is that active listening? When somebody is talking to you, it is important that you lend not only your ears but your full concentration to the person. It's not just you see the person eye to eye, but you understand what they are meaning. Once you understand, that gives you an opening of what perspective probably you may not have had. The person who is talking to you is coming from a different set of experience. Each person's experience means a lot because their thought process is characterized by their experience. So from their experience, when they are thinking about something and they are talking to you about it, you get a perspective which is a different perspective than your own. There are a lot of chances that you would understand something which you probably have not thought about, or you would understand how that person is thinking and what his or her perspective is. Listening is a great skill, whether you are talking to a 4-year-old kid or a 50-year-old person, or if it is a boardroom conversation. All through, listening is a great skill to have. With the key to opening other person's mind and understanding it, it is very important that this key requires a password. And that password is smile. You could see a lot of leaders, a lot of public personalities. One thing which they wear with them all the time is a smile. And that smile has a lot of meaning in it. And it is a very powerful tool as well. It hides a lot of things which otherwise your face would be showing out. And it also conveys a message that you are very actively listening and you're appreciating whatever the other person is saying. I never meant that you're agreeing with the other person. You're only appreciating the other person's viewpoint. So listening is a great skill to have for a person. Now, when we were in schools, listening was a key attribute. Most of us would have never had an opportunity to cross-question a teacher. Unlike today's kids, we were never allowed to cross-question a teacher. Remember, I'm talking about that 90% community, not that 10% empowered community. So listening is still a great skill when you want to move into a new role, a bigger role. The next item a person has to understand is people. Different experience and thinking brings in different levels of ability. At any point in time, this is not the same level as you or somebody else would be having. And what I mean by this is every person is unique by their experience, by their thought process. Now just consider this. We had a lot of friends. We have parents, siblings, spouse, kids, colleagues. Each of them go through various sets of experience each day in their own domain area. And that is what characterizes their thought process. And what do each person expect from us? Each person expects the other person to understand. And this understanding is the basis of living that we have. This expectation is an assumption. And in most cases, we also have that. Right now when I'm talking, I'm assuming that you are understanding what I'm talking. This assumption is the biggest failure which people have many a times when they open up on a specific topic or when they get onto a critical path. They think less about whether the person is really understanding or not. They assume that everything is clear. And now this understanding is very important, because without understanding, there is no alignment between people. Unless thinking is aligned, you can't really cooperate with each other to get things done. And as a project manager, as a leader, it is an extremely important characteristic for a person to understand the other person. Now remember, for understanding, you have to listen. So listening becomes the fundamental attribute of a person. Along with understanding a person, what it means to really get closer to them and align with them to work. There are a few things which you need to understand. What are they? When listening to people, what do you really hear from them? Either you hear somebody talking about their accomplishments or viewpoints, or obstacles they are facing in life. It'll be some new ideas or a thought process which they have. Now it is very important to appreciate people when they are really doing a great job or when they are really accomplished something. And it is very important to empathize with situations which they are going through. You may not be able to help directly, but you have to empathize. And empathy is an important, very important attribute for a person who is a leader. If you want to start practicing leadership, start practicing listening first, understand people, and then empathize with them. These three put you on a very robust platform to work with others. And we have heard from different training courses that a leader always rallies people with them. If you don't understand somebody, if they don't align with you or you don't align with them, how do you think people will rally with you? So it is important to understand, to live in their shoes, understand their problems, empathize with them. Forget if you're not helping, but at least to empathize. Patience is another important characteristic of a person. Sometimes when people are talking, things may not be directed at you. It may be something that you are not really interested in. There may be things which are done, but it is not directed at you. Unfortunately, it hits. The attribute of patience is a key thing to understand the other person, that what he or she really meant, and to guide them into the right way. Now, how can patience really guide a person? Somebody probably has done something, or rather you're trying to do something without patience. What happens at that point is your thought process is cut short. You're not going to the depth of things before you could execute something, and you execute it, which will impact somebody. When impact starts, that's when the alignment will start going off. And that alignment is a very important attribute in your organization for you to grow. If that alignment doesn't happen, then the rest of it which you do is of futile effort. Remember, people come with emotions. So you're all dealing with people here. Forget your business, forget your numbers. Those are things which you need to handle any which ways. But those are things which will fall in place only when you understand people, when you empathize with them. And when you work with people, one thing which is very common is emotions. I'm sure most of you would have experienced this kind of a scenario. Either we are extremely happy on something which has happened, or extremely upset. And same with others as well. And when these kind of emotions are shared, it's just very important that we stay at a mature level to understand that it is an emotional impact which is coming in. We have to recognize what is emotion and what is intentional. Something coming out of emotional disturbance should be absorbed in, which is a very important character of a leader. If a leader is not able to understand that difference between emotion and intention, it will become difficult for him to transact real business in real critical areas. Because when dealing with people, emotion is an inevitable thing. And finally, as I said, all these attributes will make you understand people with whom you're working, whether it is your colleagues, your superiors, your customers, and extend it further, it can be your family members. So moving on, With all these people-centered characteristics, the person also need to start seeing the bigger picture. More often than not, I hear project managers from IT industry talk about specifically their project, specific to their technology, specific to their domain. They seldom think beyond certain things. Again, I'm generalizing here. Obviously, there will be people who are really smart in doing great things. But this is my experience when talking to people. They don't go beyond their domain. Now, it is very, very important for a project manager to see the big picture. If you're not able to see the big picture, you will not be able to solve the bigger level problems which come. I still remember my professor who used to tell me, if you have a problem given to you, do not stay in the problem space to find a solution. Transcend above and see the problem from the top. You get a different view. You get a different understanding. And this is very important in our business life as well, in a career as well. When problem confronts us, we stare at it. Sometimes we start giving knee-jerk reactions. We start trying to find out solutions right away and fix the problem. End of the day, panic also settles in along with pressure. So problems are not something where you have to run away from, hide from, or stare at. Problems are opportunities which come to you with a difficult face. Just that you need to understand that it is still an opportunity for you to solve. If there are no problems existing in any job, most of us would not be having any jobs with our companies. So we are there to solve those problems with our experience. And your ability to understand the problem, decipher the impact of it, and address the issue in a methodical way shows you how mature you are. And that maturity is an important attribute towards your leadership. And how do you do that? You can't do that just sitting in your chair. You have to transcend higher. You have to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture will be available only when you talk to people, when you understand several things from several different perspectives, not from just your role. So if you're just playing a project manager's role, it is not going to be easy for you to solve a business problem or a critical problem which comes your way. Or it may be even situations where you don't understand it's a problem directed or at somebody else, or a problem somebody else should be solving, but you'll be worrying about it. So it is essential to take that bigger picture view. And once a person starts having all these people-related skills, as well as start seeing the bigger picture, there is a huge mindset change which happens. We'll talk about it. Never think about solutions from immediate scenario. Stopgap or band-aid solutions only help you avoid the problem temporarily. There may be critical situations when we have to immediately apply a stopgap scenario. But as a leader, you have to think a stopgap scenario will only avoid the problem for a short time, and you need to look at the long-term view. Long-term view is a key attribute to grow any business. Avoid impact to others. Avoid impact to business. Taking a short-term view is not a shortcut to solving a problem. In fact, it takes more effort to first find a short-term view, short-term solution, and then go in for a long-term solution. Based on the criticality of the problem, one has to take the approach of taking the longer route of first finding the short-term view, short-term solution, and then going in for a long-term solution. When issues start coming in, business is always about solving issues and growing together. When issues start coming in, remember, you cannot solve it all by yourself. You have to involve people. You have to be respectful to their views as well. Because not all problems are going to be solvable by yourself. When someone is in their junior levels of their career, the problems that come their way, they'll be able to solve it by themselves because the problems are of that nature. But you can't carry that after a few years of experience. You need people to support you. You need people to help you, and you need people to guide you into solving those problems. So you need to take people into consideration there, and you need to be respectful about their views. You cannot discount them. This open view is another key important area. If you need to understand other person's view, you need to first keep your mind open to receive those things, receive those viewpoints. If you're not keeping your views open, it's going to be difficult. There are several situations when you want to work like a leader, where you have to negotiate, where you have to push your agenda, where you have to make sure the right thing for your organization, for your group works. These negotiations are key differentiators between people who can achieve and people who cannot achieve. You have to influence your decisions to others. You can't just do it by yourself. You have to go ahead and see multiple ways of doing those negotiations. It may be a direct across the table negotiation, or it can be a long virtual negotiation which may happen. But essentially, all this requires an ability for a person to turn the table across. There may be adverse situations which may come your way, but your negotiation skills and the people skills, with your ability to see the big picture and take long-term solutions, coin them together, you find yourself in a much different space. Most often, project managers try to solve problems by themselves. They forget to seek help. And as I said, people who grow from a capacity of doing and solving problems by themselves into project management roles tend to continue to do that. And that is not always possible. One of the important attributes is delegation. You need to start looking at options of who's best suited to help me on this particular issue or help me accomplish this task. How can I seek help from others? How can I make sure we work together, collaborate, and each other be successful? That concept will talk volumes about a leader. When you have all these people skills and soft business skills which comes along with it, you start realizing a difference in you. You start realizing that space of work and space of knowledge is not just within you, but it is now a collaborative environment which you've already seated in. This collaborative environment is an extensively important engine for your growth. And remember, this time I've used the word engine. I have not used the word gears yet. Now you have to crank this engine on. And unless you have the two slides that we saw earlier, unless you have the attributes in those two slides, you can't crank this engine on. You'll be just sitting in your driver's seat. That feeling which comes to you when you have this collaborative environment is a massive feeling, because now you're more confident. You're aware of what is that you can solve, what is that your team can solve, and what is that you can deliver along with your team. And because it's a team, it is more than one person's delivery. So definitely it will be a bigger delivery which you can make, a bigger accomplishment which you can make together. Now, with all these abilities that you have developed and seeded with your team, the confidence with the team builds. You have confidence with your team, and your team has confidence in you. And this brings in a lot of more opportunities. And remember, there's somebody seeing you. It's not that others in your organization are not seeing you. They do see you. And with that visibility, you also get opportunities to work on bigger projects, bigger business challenges. The reflection of all these attributes comes in as you work along, as you start accomplishing, moving your engine. Now you've already cranked your engine. You're trying to prime it to move forward. Now this reflection is the key when you are introduced to various different avenues in your business. And now you're already started to cruise your engine in. You've changed your gears with the opportunities, and now you're starting to cruise into your path to leadership. This reflection is very important. When the avenues to do more things in your business apart from just project management opens up to you, you're already into the path of leadership. That reflection is very important. At Microsoft, we have this concept of initiatives where we support the organization apart from doing our regular day jobs. There are other areas where we help the organization grow. When such initiatives are given to a person, it means there is a lot of more acceptance which is coming the way, responsibility which is coming the way, and that is going to help the person move into more larger spectrum of things. This will obviously motivate you, because now you started feeling that you can solve bigger challenges. You have started feeling that you can accomplish more things, which obviously is going to motivate you and your team as you keep accomplishing more things. Because with each accomplishment in today's environment, growth comes in. Remember, we spoke about those government jobs where you have a 9-to-5 job and you come back and you have a good pension after that and you're all settled. Now the situation is not that. We have already moved on. We have already shredded our the ring fencing that something somehow came to us. Now we are already talking about with accomplishments I grow. And when you start accomplishing things, you find that you're growing, which means there is a lot of confidence and motivation which comes with you. Now this confidence is very important factor to become a leader. Because unless you have confidence, you can't put forth your points correctly and comfortably in front of an adverse group. And for a person to be a leader, it is not just the ability to accomplish the task. It is also the ability to convince people and rally them behind is very important. Confidence plays a major part. And you start delivering. You start accomplishing a lot of things. And this drive now is already into the path of leadership. Now, when you keep doing this more often, and like in project management, we say, when you start practicing project management, you really live by it. When you just do the job of a project manager, you're just doing a 9-to-5 job. When you start practicing things, it comes from your blood. You live by it. And when you live by it, you don't have to get stressed for simple things. Because you know you're doing the right thing, and you know it has been thoughtful, and you know you have gathered that experience and you have that support from your people to do that. And when all this falls into place, you start leading. And this horizon of leadership is now visible to you. Now these are all very simple things. Very, very simple things to do. But when you start executing it, you will find a lot of challenges because it is not as simple as it is really spoken when you're in a lecture session. When you want to really work with people, your emotions are the first ones which come into play with you. You have to control those emotions, and it is not very easy. This requires time, this requires practice. And when you practice these things, you definitely get into a path of leadership where you could see the leadership responsibilities in the horizon. It's not that you go to the leadership. In this particular case, the leadership responsibilities come to you. You start leading. So if somebody is still working on a title, I'm still a project manager, I'm not getting the next title to move on, so I feel I'm not a leader. I don't subscribe to that particular argument because if I'm a project manager, I'm already a leader. There are a lot of attributes in me which reflects the ones which we saw in the few slides earlier. And now I'm practicing all this. It's just a matter of time for the opportunity to come to me. Opportunities come to a person who's already prepared. If a person is not prepared, he will not be able to recognize the opportunities which come to him or her. So it is very important that we start practicing certain things and keeping ourselves ready for the opportunities to come. And many times you would realize opportunities may not come, but you will create opportunities. And that's a quality of a leader. And how do you create those opportunities? You don't have to do anything. Just practice these things. You would create opportunities by yourself. And whether it is a public sector job or a job with a corporate organization, it stands the same. So with that, I want to open it up for discussions.
I've assigned you some questions, Mr. Kithari. Are you able to see them?
Let me take a look. Okay, there are many questions which have come in. I appreciate it. Is it easier to break an atom than a mental model? Albert Einstein with this saying, how to make a breakthrough. If I understand your question correctly, you're asking how I can break my mental habits. First thing is, if you've made a mental habit, it comes with practice, and habit is something which happens with practice. It is as simple as a 30+ person trying to get into the gym with less motivation. If you have motivation, you get into the gym and you do it regularly, it becomes a practice, and practice becomes a habit. And that's what I was emphasizing. If you could make things as a practice, things will follow through. You don't have to put any further effort than practicing, very ritually practicing certain things. So that is my opinion on that. Ram Rambo. How is the excellency in the path to leadership achieved for technical stream-oriented career part? Definitely yes. This is not just a project management related topic, if you will. The same applies to a technical leadership person as well. I was talking to a few other architects from my organization, and this was something we were sharing. Even in technology space, it's the same thing. Don't wait for opportunities. See avenues to create them. These are all attributes for an individual to become a leader. It's not just for a project manager. It more applies to a project manager in a scenario where he or she can easily pump up into that area. But even for any other role, as I was saying, anybody else who wants to grow in their career can really use this model to grow. And that was for Achyut Nayak. How much influence that emotional intelligence impact on leadership, and how to inculcate this? Very good question. I really appreciate that question. So here we did speak about emotions as a part of something which people have to understand. When we deal with people, it is important to understand that there are things which they like to do, there are things which they don't like to do. And when we start doing things which somebody else doesn't like to do, conflict is created. And when you have an understanding about what the other person really doesn't like, you already have an understanding about their emotion. So definitely when you're working with people, emotional intelligence is a key enabler for people to rally behind you. So without emotional intelligence, you're not going to get support of people. Having understanding about others' emotion is one part, and most importantly, it is extremely important for you to have understanding of your own emotions. When you really feel happy and you start behaving weird, or when you're really angry at something and you're going nuts on it. Both of these are scenarios where you should understand, oh my God, okay, my BP is racing right now, I have to slow down. And when you start having that understanding of yourself, that is again a big change that you're bringing to yourself based on your emotional intelligence. How do we understand client? I'm sorry, I did not understand that question. Probably it was a very short-phrased question. I would be more than happy to answer that, if you can email me. Or rather, you said client's perspective. Understanding anybody's perspective is very important, whether it's your manager, whether it's your peer, or even your spouse. Understanding their perspective is important. I was talking about this a while ago. To understand anybody, it is more important to listen to them. I deal with a lot of customers when I'm working for Microsoft or when I'm doing some work for PMI. So the most important thing which I do with people is listening to them. Once you start giving your ears and mind to your customers or the opponent who's sitting in front of you, there's a lot of things which opens up, and you have to start read. Sometimes words will be meaning the same things which they are talking about. Sometimes you have to read in between lines, and this comes by practice. It's a huge learning curve which you'll have if you start practicing this. So it is better to start practicing listening as a fundamental skill very early in the career. How to apply leadership in agile PM scenarios? Again, whether it is agile scenario, and I believe Achyut Nayak, you're probably an IT person. If I have to talk about agile scenarios, mostly IT are the ones who are using it. Of course, we know the manufacturing sector used it a lot earlier. Now, when we talk about a PM, whether it is following agile methodology or any other methodology, The concept is same. Whether you're able to understand people, work with people, whether you're able to rally them behind you, you have the attributes of listening to people, understanding them in depth, understanding their emotions. Do you see a bigger picture? Are you able to refine your thoughts to the specific problem you're dealing with by taking a bigger picture? These are very important things, and it doesn't make, in my opinion, doesn't make much difference between any other project management principle and agile. Somebody is asking, Venkatesh Somasundar is asking, whatever you're speaking about is true, but what if life changes, title changes, but not pay? If we decide to move to other organization, there we will get good pay, but below a grade. What do we need in such cases? Again, see, one thing which we, in our current scenario, the 90s and the 2000s, which we have crossed by, what has happened is all these organizations have a lot of opportunities for people to work. And obviously, when organizations start looking at people to help them on certain things, they are going to look at what is going to be their benefit. You may get a slightly higher pay, right? You may be highly experienced in that particular area, but when you're making a shift, you're probably settling in for a different role. So it is a trade-off that you're doing. And that's where your negotiation skills comes into play. What is your intent that you're trying to do here? I want to grow, or should I just want to get more pay? Because in my opinion, money is one part which really doesn't indicate what level of responsibility a person is carrying. For me, a maid who is working at home carries a lot of responsibilities. Without them doing certain things, we will not be able to focus on whatever we are doing. So money and responsibility in a particular job title really doesn't equate to each other. So the trade-off is something very individual thing. You have to have the negotiation skills to fit yourself correctly. I don't mean you have to move jobs to change title. And as I said before, without changing title itself, you can play the leadership role in an organization. Just that you may not have a title, just that people may not accept with you, but you can show that you have the ability to do that. Opportunities will open up, and you have to be patient. Shitej Yelkar. Currently, I'm working in an IT recruitment company as a project manager for in-house software development. I do not see any project closing, project delivery at client-side experience. To get this sort of opportunity, what skills I have to develop? You are in a recruitment company. I don't think a recruitment company is obviously going to help you offer those kind of experience. I don't want to talk more about this particular thing. So you need to understand what is that you want to do and where you are right now, and whether you will be able to deliver or get that from this particular job that you're doing. Jaideep Singh is asking a question. What are different ways of collaboration? Collaboration starts with listening and conversing with people. Once you start understanding people, automatically there are situations where you need help from others, and there are situations where others need help from you. And when a teaming situation happens, whether it is based on personal help or for professional reasons, definitely there is collaboration starting over there. There may be a lot of jargons, there may be a lot of theories which may be used to apply this collaboration into different states, but it is more about having a one-on-one touch with people to start collaborating with them and to deliver. Every other theory which you would talk about would circle around this. Is there risk priority matrix that a leader should follow? Okay. I do not know where you're heading with the risk priority matrix because all these three statements, risk, priority, and matrix towards the leader means a lot of different things. Ashokan, maybe you can take my phone number from Times of PMI and you can call me, we can talk one-on-one about this. What kind of employee should a project manager look in for an interview? For me, I have recruited a lot of project managers in few different companies that I've worked. I'm working with a lot of volunteers for PMI. And in each case, I do not look at anything very different. I only see if there is fire in the person and there is passion. And in fire and passion comes with a structured ability to deliver. That's the person whom you can run with. Because when I give a job to somebody, and this advisory council that I'm part of, we have a lot of things happening. we give responsibilities to volunteers and they do help complete those things. This is because everybody has passion, and the only bond which ties people together in an organization is passion. The rest of it, yes, we are in a mixed environment. People just run for a job, people just run for money. But again, if there is passion, there is honest work behind people. I just moved from a non-IT industry to an IT industry as a project manager. What are the key 5 things I should concentrate to become successful in project management role? The first thing I would request is check if you align with your passion in becoming a IT project manager. If you're not aligning with your passion, that itself is a first indicator that you're heading into a wrong way. Second, are you trained enough? Are you having enough orientation towards structured project management? Because as I said, in IT industry, mostly people believe that with experience, you can become a project manager. And the experience would have been in a technology side, and all of a sudden, because of number of years of experience, they think they can organize things and they can do certain things. Yes, it works. I do not say it doesn't work. But the unfortunate thing there is that is not the only necessary condition to achieve that level. So you need to have some kind of a background in structured thinking, in organizing yourself, and to deliver in a methodical way, because that is what a project manager is expected to do in any professional organization. How soft skills helps in path to leadership? I would rather ask how it doesn't. Because soft skills are the fundamental for a leader. The domain skills obviously are necessary. There is no questions about that. But without soft skills, a person can become a leader, but he might become an, like Hitler. Nobody is going to, go behind him. And that's going to be a challenge. You may get a title, you may live by a leadership role for a while, but you will see your descent very fast. So soft skills are the ones to help you sustain them. How to assign the work to people who is not interested to take up new activities, but needs level change, how to handle those people. Again, as I said, without passion, nobody is going to grow. And what is more important, I believe you're a people manager, and that is Ravi, I believe. If you're a people manager, it is important to bring in that maturity level with people, that title and levels and pay are not the only ones which they need for taking up the responsibilities. I was just giving you my own example. All through my life, whenever I thought I should move to the next level or I should have more responsibilities, I started living by that. I started performing that level responsibilities. Sometimes it's given to you. Sometimes it may not be given to you. You can talk with your colleague, you can talk with your manager to take more responsibilities and work irrespective of your title change. So that definitely helps you prove yourself. Number one, gain the experience that you would need when you get into that title. And most importantly, the opportunity which you are really looking for also opens up. This level of maturity needs to be inculcated in people. And only when they understand this, they will be able to honestly deliver. Otherwise, it's just a rat race. And I talk about this as an example. When you're in school, you move from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3 and grade 4 every year. And that's not going to happen when you come to job. And sometimes, unfortunately, people do expect such kind of moves. And that is not reality. It is the responsibility of the people manager to set that reality in. Okay, looks like that's all I have as questions here. What is more important for being a true PM? Capability to get things done or capability to do all things by self? Undoubtedly, capability to get things done. If you can do all things by yourself, you are a very, very experienced person in that specific skill area. And you can accomplish things by yourself. But if you're a project manager, it is very important for you to make sure that your team delivers. Without your team delivering, you're not going to be successful. Let's take a scenario. There is a project and you start doing things by yourself and you start delivering. And what happens in that situation is those who are in the team are either idle or allocated very simple tasks. Very soon, boredom will set in for them. And that is not a very good situation for us to be in. Project managers should motivate others to deliver. It can be direct motivation, It can be indirect motivation by constantly talking to them and raising up their maturity level to perform. And nobody really thinks that they should not perform, just that there is a mindset which sets in sometimes when people don't move on the direction which we want. So if you're a project manager, I would recommend you should stay away from the delivery yourself, but you should manage the delivery. I practice that in Microsoft. I don't get into the technology skills by myself, though I am aware of what is happening on the technology side. It is very important that the right skilled people deliver the right thing. If you're the right skilled person for a technology delivery, I assume Neeraj Singhal, probably you're an IT person, so you may have the right skills to deliver things by yourself. But when you're a PM, you have to guide others to deliver that, make them grow, make them understand things and grow. That is how you can expect delivery from everybody else. Looks like that was the last question.
Well, thanks for the insightful presentation.
Over to you, Mohini. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time.
Thank you so much for the insightful presentation on Part 2 Leadership. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgeek.com by Monday. Thank you all. Have a great evening.